Beneath the ashen sky of Winterfell, the first fine veil of snow found every quiet corner and lingered like a pale promise upon stone ramparts and leafless branches. The castle's ancient walls drank in the hush of coming winter, and each flake seemed to deepen the stillness that had long made the north feel older than any reckoning of years. Jon Snow stood upon the battlements, one gloved hand curled around rough crenellation, the other sunk in the fur at Ghost's nape. The dire wolf's red eyes roved the quiet yard below, unblinking, ever alert, while Jon's own gaze wandered farther, past the steaming chimneys, over the empty Godswood Bridge, across the rolling white fields where frozen grasses whispered beneath the drift. A low mist pooled among the barrow mounds, and in its silver, the tombs of the kings in the north seemed half ready to rise and stride once more. It had been a restless night. Dreams, no, fragments of something too vivid to be only dreams, had hunted him from sleep. A woman's song echoing in a tower, the scent of crushed blue flowers, a shadowed shape with a sword of falling stars. Morning had offered no comfort. What rest a bastard might take in service to a lord's hall had deserted him, and the notion of southbound roads and black brotherhoods had chafed like raw wool. Ghost brushed Jon's thigh, sensing the turmoil that words could not hold, and the boy, still half a boy despite the breadth of his shoulders, closed his eyes to breathe the cold and still himself. Somewhere behind him, a door groaned. The scrape of boot against snow-laden plank followed, measured and certain. Jon did not turn. He knew the steps as well as the sound of his own breath. Lord Eddard Stark moved with a gravity that recognized both weight and silence. The man paused at Jon's shoulder before setting a gloved hand upon the stone. Beneath a hood trimmed in wolf gray, his eyes were distant, storm-colored, unsure. "The dawn comes late these days," Ned Stark said. His voice could have been wind among the pines, soft, but edged in something ancient, and lingers but a heartbeat before winter steals it back. Jon nodded. "A long night is upon us, my lord. It comes for us all, whether we bid it or not." They stood in wordless company for a time. Crows wheeled across a pewter sky. The yard below stirred with stable hands shaking ice from water buckets, and page boys fetching coal for hearths still aching from the night's chill. Jon sensed his father's restlessness, and felt it answer his own. Lord or bastard, they shared a certain stillness that could crack without warning. "I would speak with you," Ned said at last. Privately, Jon followed him down the narrow stone steps. Ghost padded after, silent as frost. Within the keep, the torches cast long shadows, and the air smelled of juniper smoke and boiled oats. Ned led him not to the great hall nor solar, but deeper, toward a door of seasoned oak bound by iron straps, Maester Luwin's chambers. The door was ajar, and candlelight wavered upon shelves crowded with rolls of parchment, clay jars of ink, and old tomes with flaking covers. Maester Luwin rose from a writing stool. His chain of many metals lay heavy upon his shoulders. He inclined his head first to Ned, then to Jon, and though his eyes never betrayed surprise, Jon sensed an unspoken tension, the kind that accompanies a decision long deferred. "Close the door, if you will," Luwin said softly. Jon did so, the latch clicking shut with a finality that filled the small room. Ghost lay at his feet, tail curled about forepaws, gaze fixed on the maester's gray field mouse scurrying behind a scroll case. Ned paced once, twice, as though measuring unseen lines upon the floor. "Jon," he began, but the name faltered. He drew a breath that was not steady. "You have ever asked me about your mother, and I have always failed you." A low crack from the hearth punctuated his words. Jon felt the world condense. For years he had wanted nothing more than this admission, this doorway into truth, yet his pulse thudded in dread. Ghost whined. Ned clasped his son's shoulder. "I feared the wolves beyond these walls, the swords at court. I feared even your own heart, that it might burn too bright. But winter grows closer, and secrets kept too long turn to ice that breaks the strongest stone. Dimundel." Maester Luwin produced a small bundle of folded parchment, sealed with a broken ring of dark wax. "Your lord father entrusted this to me the day you came to Winterfell," he said. To be opened only when he commanded, or when I judged the need too dire to wait. Ned's eyes met Joan's. I now command it. Lewin's fingers worked the folds apart. John caught the faded scent of roses pressed between pages, roses that had once been blue. On the parchment the ink had browned, but the lines were graceful, precise, and each stroke was alive with intensity. The words meant nothing to John at first. They were in a language he scarcely knew. Yet one name repeated. Lyanna, and another. Rhaegar. His heart lurched. Ned cleared his throat, yet when he spoke he used no parchment as crutch. Your mother was my sister, Lyanna Stark. Your father was Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. John stared. The room wavered as though floorboards had shifted underfoot. He heard the crack of ice outside, the cry of a distant raven, the thrum of his own blood. Prince. Targaryen. Rhaegar Tol. Words that belonged to songs sung by Southron minstrels, to dragon banners and burning fields, not to the quiet son of Winterfell, whom no feast would seat at the high table. Ned continued. On the trident, Robert slew Rhaegar. In the Tower of Joy at Dorne, I found your mother. Found her dying. She made me swear to protect you, to hide you from Robert's wrath. The realm believed her stolen, raped, yet she chose Rhaegar, loved him, and you are their son. Silence bled into the corners where torchlight quivered. John's lips felt numb. Why tell me now? He whispered. Because you are a man grown. Because truths buried too long fester. And because your decision to take the black should be made with all the world's weight upon it. Ned's jaw tightened. The Night's Watch gives up names, titles, claims. In black you would forfeit more than any man ever has. Your birthright, your father's crown, the blood of the dragon that sings in you. Lewin's eyes glimmered like morning dew. This knowledge could rend the realm once more. Yet ignorance is not safety either. John swallowed. He reached for Ghost's muzzle, anchoring himself in the living, breathing present. Does anyone else know? 2 of my closest men died at the tower, Ned said, voice thin with remembered grief. Howland Reed lives yet, but he keeps his oaths. Beyond him, none. And my brothers Robb, Bran, Arya. They are your kin by mother's blood. Ned's face softened. The bond is not undone by truth, yet I bear the greater sin. In protecting you, I lied to Catelyn, to my sons and daughters. His voice broke. Forgive me. One day, they must know as you now do, but your choice must come first. Messia Nakawa. John closed his eyes. A dragon's roar, distant and ghostly, echoed in the vault of his mind. He saw himself in black, atop the wall, sword bright with frost. And he saw another self astride a beast of night-living flame, banners streaming, a crown of swords at his feet. Between those images yawned an abyss of duty and desire. At last he spoke. If I forsake my vow before it is sworn, perhaps the Watch loses one more sword. Yet if I take it, the realm may never know the heir it needs. His fingers shook. The fire popped. I do not want crowns. I never asked for them. But to deny the realm truth, is that not cowardice? Ned touched his cheek, as he might have when John was 5 years old and fevered. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is standing inside the storm and still choosing honor. John felt something shift, a great stone rolling aside in his chest. Then let us call the witnesses. He turned to Maester Lewin. Quills and ravens, if you please. My brothers and sisters will hear first from me, not rumor. Maester bowed. At once, my... He hesitated upon the word, searching for a title. John. Ned exhaled the breath he had held since dawn. We begin with the family. After that, the bannermen. John squared his shoulders. Winterfell was not built to shrink from storms. The hours that followed were a blur of ink-stained vellum and hushes in dark corridors. Robb was summoned from the kennels, hair windblown, cheeks ruddy. Arya from the yard, sword practice sweat still beading her brow. Bran carried on Hodor's broad back, eyes bright with curiosity. Sansa escorted from her embroidery, lovely and composed, though confusion knit her fair brow. In the solar's warm glow Ned spoke first, his voice low but unwavering, recounting the tale he had bound to silence for nearly 15 years. Each word fell like hammer on anvil. Robb's fist clenched white around the pommel of his dagger. Yet, as the story unfolded, anger drained into something deeper. Awe, trepidation, a brother's protective urge colliding against a lord's instinct for the North. Arya's face flickered with wild delight. A dragon brother seemed fit for the song she treasured. Bran, eyes wide, drank every detail as though they were milk of the poppy. Sansa swayed, pale as moonlit snow, whispers of court gossip tangling in her thoughts. Targaryen, mad blood, wildfire, beauty and tragedy. At last Jon spoke. "I am your blood still. No crown nor dragon will change my heart for you." They answered in their fashion. Robb clasped his forearm, sealing a pact older than memory. Arya sprang forth to hug him, Ghost snarling at her sudden motion before recognizing kin. Bran reached to touch Jon's cheek as though seeking a mark of prophecy. Sansa curtsied then, remembering herself, rose and placed a tremulous kiss upon his brow. Word must travel next to the Lord's bannermen, to the Riverlands, to the Vale. Ned pondered ravens, pondered the dire peril of misread words. "Better they come here," he said. "Face to face, sworn to secrecy until we choose otherwise. A council of the North." Ravens went nonetheless. Summons only, urgency cloaked in the veil of winter preparations. Great John Umber, roisterous and iron-lunged. Roose Bolton with eyes like faint candlelight behind a veil. Lady Mormont, stern as any bear. The Ryswells, the Hornwoods, the Glovers. Each would march beneath snow-laden skies to Winterfell's gates. Yet news travels faster upon wings, not of raven, but of rumor. In King's Landing Varys whisperers would catch the scent soon enough. Cersei's green eyes would sharpen. Robert would rage or laugh or drown in wine, and in Dragonstone, a boy named Stannis might weigh the letter's sigils and see a path to justice, carved with fire. Far across the narrow sea, exiled viseries might wake from bitter dreams, and feel his claim slide from grasp the way sand runs between desperate fingers. For now, though, Winterfell breathed. Fires blazed in hearths. Snow thickened on the roofs. Jon walked the godswood paths alone, save for Ghost. The heart-tree's face, red sap weeping from pale, contorted grooves, seemed to gaze upon him with knowledge older than dragons. He knelt, pressed his brow to cold, rough bark, and whispered thanks. Though to what or whom he was no longer certain. Blood of wolf and dragon pulsed within his veins. An ancient harmony made suddenly known. When he rose, a raven settled upon a low branch, feathers glossy as midnight oil. It cocked its head and spoke in an echo of croaking syllables. "Snow, snow." Jon smiled without mirth. Jon Targaryen is a mouthful, perhaps. Ghost growled softly, hackles lifting. Jon turned and beheld Catelyn Stark at the edge of the clearing. Fur-lined cloak drawn tight, eyes bright with something like frostfire. She had heard then. How could she not? Yet the look upon her face was not anger alone but ache. Great as the yawning chasm of ice beyond the wall. Her voice, when it came, sounded older than its years. "You are Lyanna's boy." It was not question but revelation, and though it carried sorrow, it bore relief as well. Everything makes sense now. Ned's silence, the way he could not meet my eyes when I asked, the pain he always held close. Jon bowed his head. "I am sorry for the wound my presence gave you. You are not a wound." She stepped nearer, hands trembling. "I thought you a reminder of betrayal. Yet you are. A promise kept. Lyanna's last breath." Catelyn drew a shaky breath. "Forgive me for what coldness I showed." Jon lifted his gaze. "I forgave you long before I knew why you shunned me." Tears glazed her eyes, quick as winter dew. She brushed them away. "The realm will tear itself for a Targaryen heir. You must be careful." "Careful," Jon echoed. "I thought to swear my life beyond the wall to avoid such storms. Storms do not fade because we flee them." She touched his cheek, and for the first time, The gesture held no reluctance, but sometimes we weather them better together. Night fell in hues of amethyst and coal. Lanterns flared along the battlements. Laughter rang in the kitchens, where cooks prepared a feast to welcome the arriving lords. Yet in the library fires dimmed, shadows grew tall, and Ned Stark bent over maps of Westeros with Maester Luwin at his side. They spoke names: Baratheon, Aaron, Tully. They weighed alliances, debts, oaths. Luwinen's quill scratched, careful, deliberate, and each mark upon parchment felt like striking tinder near oil. Jon entered, and Ned raised weary eyes. "I have thought on our course. The wall needs men, this remains true, but perhaps it is not the place for you just now." He touched a brooch shaped like a direwolf. "You carry two houses in your veins, Stark and Targaryen. Perhaps the gods have need of such joining in the world of men, not in exile." "Nay." Jon drew nearer. "Yet even dragons may freeze in winter." Ned's smile was a flicker. Some flames burned through ice. They poured mulled wine, dark as garnet, and spoke long into the night. Plans took shape like frost on glass. Uncertain outlines of southward journeys, of old loyalists hidden beneath fear, of words to whisper at court where walls might hear. But all plans balanced funambulist fine upon a single truth, newly laid bare. Dawn came between one heartbeat and the next. Jon dreamed of painted children dancing about a weirwood, of a crown that turned to raven feathers, of a wall of black ice cracking down its center. He woke with sweating brow. The castle stirred with arrivals. Horns sounded, hooves stamped ice to slush. In the courtyard the Grey Jon dismounted, roaring for ale. Lady Mormont arrived atop her shaggy bear of a horse. Roose Bolton glided like mist. Jon dressed in woolen mail, new surcoat emblazoned not with direwolf nor dragon but plain gray, neutral as heavy sky. He fastened Longclaw's simple leather belt about his waist, though the blade itself he left upon a rack. Then he set foot on the stairs that led toward his future, each step echoing like a drum in his bones. At the great oaken doors, Ghost halted, hackles high. A breath of winter swept inward, curling through the hall. Snowflakes drifted in, melting upon stone. Outside, beneath banners stiff with frost, lords and ladies dismounted and gathered. They would feast first, then hear Ned's words in council chamber. And when that hour came, Jon Snow, Jon Targaryen, would stand before them in a hall of his ancestors and speak the truth above every whisper. But for now, he waited within the doorway. 5 heartbeats. 10. He felt his mother's whisper, felt his father's song. He felt the direwolf in his blood, and the dragon stirring its wings beneath. Winterfell's doors swung wide to admit the storm. Balhua. Hey. A hush fell across Winterfell's yard as the castle absorbed its gathering. Steel-shod horses stamping, paws of shaggy northern hounds scratching at slush, voices booming, murmuring, whispering in a dozen accents of the north. The gates closed with a resonant groan behind the last rider, and at once the courtyard seemed smaller, pressed inward by the weight of secrets borne between hoarfrost-rimmed cloaks. Jon drew into the shadows beneath the first-floor gallery, Ghost at heel, and watched the swirl of colorless banners as men announced themselves in tones pitched too low for far-flung ears. The Great Jon's laughter crashed first, broad as the white knife when spring ice breaks. He clapped Ned Stark's shoulder with a gauntlet that would have staggered a lesser man and barked for casks of brown ale lest his breath freeze 'fore morning. Beside the Umber Lord, Lady Mage Mormont dismounted, as if leaping into battle, bearskin cloak trailing sparks of snow. She greeted Catelyn with a curt nod that conveyed entire sagas of respect and grief shared for lost sons. Roose Bolton drifted in their wake like dusk arriving early, eyes pale, quiet as flakes landing upon the hood of his flayed man cloak. Behind him came his son, Ramsay, nervous, skittish, a weasel disguised in sable, whose glance slid across Jon and lingered on Ghost with a curious hunger. Jon met that gaze, let the direwolf bear a sliver of fang, and saw the bastard of Dreadfort look away first. Across the yard, Sir Roderick Castle oversaw stable boys leading horses to straw-lined stalls. He barked orders until his knotted whiskers bristled white. Through it all, Bran watched from Hodor's towering shoulders, blue eyes bright with the swiftness of thought that his legs could no longer share. Arya slipped between columns, peering out like a feral cat, palms dusty from the practice swords she'd set aside only at Catelyn's firm insistence. Sansa hovered near Septa Mordane by the entrance to the keep, prim and composed yet stiff with contained storms. Her needlework set aside, replaced by unseen stitching of rumor. Jon retreated before any lord perceived him too closely. He slid through a postern into the inner ward, and up a narrow spiral that threaded the eastern tower. Ghost followed soundless, but for faint clicks of claw on stone. Here, torches smoked in deep embrasures, leaving much of the passage in uneasy dusk. He breathed the mingled scents of pitch smoke, damp limestone, melting snow, and beneath it all the faint coppery tang of rusted iron. A northern smell, equal parts hearth and battlefield. At the tower's crown Maester Luwin awaited him in a small loft where ravens preened inside their cages, feathers whispering against wicker. Scrolls lay bound in neat stacks. Fresh ink shimmered in the maester's pen stand like dark wine. "The Lord settle in swiftly," Luwin observed, voice low lest the birds learn too much. "Some rode day and night to answer Lord Stark's summons. That urgency alone will feed tales." Nah. Jon rested a hand on Ghost's ruff. "Tales will grow with or without our tending. Better they bloom from Winterfell's garden than sprout wild beyond our walls." He touched a nearby window slit. Chill bled through the stone into his glove. "Has a bird arrived from White Harbor?" "Lord Wyman responds with caution," Luwin said, selecting a parchment with a thin smile. "He begs indulgence for delay. Ice flows choke the Wolfsden harbor, and he awaits the tides turning. Yet the handwriting suggests more. He is gauging winds he cannot yet see." Jon nodded. "Send him fresh words. Tell him the tides he fears begin here under northern eyes, not King's Landings." His heartbeat quickened at the thought of letters winging south to the capital. Borne by whisperers, Varys had strewn like spiderlings. Time felt brittle. And the wall? Any answer from Castle Black? "Lord Commander Jor writes that a ranging departed the Shadow Tower 2 days past." Luwin replied. "His ravens speak of darker skies and bodies lost beyond the Milkwater. They welcome fresh levies, but send caution that the realm's quarrels seem petty beside what stirs in the far north." Then, Jon swallowed. There had been a simplicity in his resolve to take the black, one sword against a night of endless teeth. Now duty tangled around him like unseen roots. "One day," he murmured, mostly to Ghost, "I will answer that call still." A raven croaked overhead, black wings rasping the cage. Luwin unlatched the door to free it. "Words fly faster upon honest beaks than tongues," he said, coaxing the bird to his wrist. "But when men speak, hearts are moved. Today, hearts must be moved." He fixed Jon with earnest gray eyes. "Are you settled upon your speech?" Jon hesitated. He had spent hours the night before testing sentences in his mind. Soft as snow, sharp as dragon steel, heavy with truth. Each attempt melted or shattered under the weight of what it carried. "I have thoughts, and a name that is not mine yet is." Luwin gave a gentle nod. "A name older than any here remember. You need not unsheath it in the first breath. Let trust form first, then crowns may follow." Ghost whined at the restless air. Jon slipped out and descended to the second-floor corridor that ringed the great hall. From behind carved wooden screens, he could look down upon the tables being dressed. Rue oaken boards soon hidden beneath white linen, pewter plates warming beside trenches of steaming cabbage stew, great joints of mutton spitting beneath iron spits. Servants hurried with jugs of mulled wine, and the smell of cloves wrapped Jon's senses like a familiar cloak. Yet a tremor ran through him. This evening he would stand not as bastard, but as something half imagined, half denied, before hosts who had bled for winter kings and cursed dragon lords for 3 centuries. He walked further until hushed voices reached him through a cracked door. Robb and Catelyn stood inside a solar lit by stained glass, washed in late afternoon sapphire. Catelyn's hands gripped her eldest son's forearms. Her cheeks glistened. yet her mouth was resolute. "I do not doubt him, Rob," she was saying, "but others will. Boltons, Umbers, Karstarks. Every house bends to its own loss and hope. Some may see in Jon a banner to drape their ambitions." "Nah." Rob's voice, grown deeper during the last harvest, carried the quiet steel of Winterfell's anvil. "No man of the North will call him anything but brother whilst I breathe. And should they look to him for dragonfire, I will remind them Stark blood runs hotter than any pyre." "They will weigh loyalties," Catelyn persisted, smoothing a tear from her cheek. "Your siblings adore him. You trust him. I now see him with different eyes. But hearts beyond these walls were hardened by the war that ended but 15 years ago. None. And hearts within these walls may harden if they see him scorned." Rob laid a hand over hers. "He asks no crown. Father gives him leave only to reveal truth. That is all I stand beside tonight. Truth." Jon eased away before they heard him, a ghost among tapestries, and descended to ground level. In the antechamber to the great hall, he found Arya sitting cross-legged, atop a travel chest, needle balanced across her knees. She twirled the little sword in her fingers, point barely missing the toe of her boot. "Are you frightened?" she asked without looking up. "Arya, you know better than to brandish steel near supping guests." She shrugged. "Sooner point than courtesy for some who will doubt you." Her gray eyes rose wild and fierce. "I could stick them if they spit." He smiled, despite himself. "No sticking. Words first, swords never if we are lucky." Arya twisted her mouth. "Words are wind." When Rob named Grey Wind his sigil beast, the great Jon laughed until Rob's wolf bit fingers off. She sheathed the needle in a single sure motion. "Sometimes wind needs teeth." "You are right," Jon said gently. "But sometimes wind lifts wings. Tonight I must fly before I bite." He ruffled her dark hair. She ducked but grinned. "Keep the wolf in you until I need him." Supper bells tolled. Lords and ladies filed through heavy doors beneath festooned torches. Jon slipped in with them, ghost shadowing his heels, though stable hands muttered about hounds and hare shedding near food. Ghost ignored them, stalking to lie behind Jon's bench where stone met rushes. Wagging chairs scraped into place until the high table filled. Ned at the center, Catelyn on his right, Rob on his left. Maester Luwin and Sir Roderick flanked them. Jon took a seat not far down, beside Lady Mormont, whose broad shoulders outmeasured many men's. Her sharp eye flicked to him. She said nothing, merely nodded in a manner he recognized as acceptance until proven foolishness. Platters arrived. The din of knives on trenchers swelled. Ale foamed across beards. Talk rolled from harvest yields to Mance Raiders' latest raids beyond the wall. No mention of dragons colored the first course. Yet beneath every jest Jon felt a tension, brittle as pond ice. When at last the main course dwindled to breadcrumbs and bone, Ned Stark rose. The great hall stilled. Ned Stark seldom spoke long in company, and when he did not, even the great Jon would laugh over him. Candlelight flickered, casting red upon his graying beard. "My lords," he began, voice heavy and slow as northern drums. "You rode hard through early storms to answer my call. For that I thank you beyond measure. We gather not for feasting alone, though none would begrudge such cheer before winter closes his grip. We gather for truth. None." He paused, while wine cups settled, while a single hound in the corner ceased gnawing its bone. Truth long kept in shadow for fear of greater storms. Yet storms come, whether feared or not. He turned to Jon, and suddenly every gaze followed. "Tonight I share with you, my son, Jon." Fire popped. Ramsay Bolton coughed. A squire spilled beer across his thigh. Ned continued. 15 years passed, in the ashes of Robert's rebellion. I returned from the south with a babe in arms. I named him Snow, as befits a bastard of the north, and raised him among my children as blood of my blood. He looked at Catelyn. Grief and love mingled in his eyes. I have wronged my lady wife by silence, wronged my son by shame. Tonight I mend what oaths allowed and fear forbade. He faced the lords. Jon is no son of mine by seed. but he is blood of my sister, Lyanna Stark. His father was Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, her lawful husband, in secret union. Their boy was born in the Tower of Joy, and entrusted to me as Lyanna's dying wish. Dayan. A collective breath rushed the hall. Some men made the sign of the seven unconsciously, though few prayed to that faith under Winterfell's roof. Others sat unmoving, as if stone-carved. Greyjohn's brows rose then lowered. Bolton's mouth twitched. Lady Mormont's fist began to pound the table slowly, thoughtfully. Ned let the silence stretch, then spoke softer. I am him bastard to shield his life from a realm that would have ended the existence of the last dragon. In doing so, I betrayed neither realm nor honor, for Robert's vengeance would have slain an innocent babe. Yet I placed a burden of frost upon Jon's shoulders. Tonight, that burden ends. No, he gestured. Jon rose. Candlelight raked him. His breath caught at the sea of faces. Some armored in surprise, others shuddered behind calculation. My lords, Jon began, voice carrying further than he dreamed it could. I stand before you still a son of Winterfell. By the love Lord Eddard Stark granted. By the bond shared with his children. I have known no other hearth. The blood in my veins is Stark as surely as it is Targaryen, wolf and dragon joined. He let the words sink like stones into deep water. I seek no crown, no rebellion, no war. I seek only the truth owed to those who have ridden through winter storms for it. The Grey Jon shoved back his bench with a screech. He planted meaty fists on the table. Songs say dragon blood runs hot and wild. Yet I see before me a lad who watched my own whelps wrestle in mud, and laughed with them till the moon rose. If Ned Stark swears your mother was Lyanna, I need hear no more. Stark blood's good enough for this hall. Nendan. Several voices rumbled agreement, though not all. Roose Bolton's pale gaze remained fixed on Jon, weighing. Lady Mormont nodded once, slow, like a bear judging the wind. Jon pushed forward. I was bound for the wall. The Night's Watch would have my life, for I believed loyalty demanded I forsake claim and name. Yet if I swore that oath now, I would cast your trust into darkness. How might I guard the realms of men, while denying the realm a truth that could knit what tears threaten? Bolton slid to his feet. His voice flowed smooth as oiled leather. Truth seldom knits, Lord Snow. Often it frays, then burns. A hush greeted the address. Bolton corrected himself with a ghostly half-smile. Jon, consider. Baratheon's choke kings landing with debt and drink, yet they wear dragons' corpses upon their banners. What might Robert do, drunk on fear as much as wine, when talk of live Targaryen heirs reaches him? Ned answered before Jon. Fear cannot guide the north. We have lived too long beneath shadows of southern crowns. If Robert rides against Winterfell, he rides against every house represented here. Dagon. Great Jon roared assent, smacking the table hard enough to scatter crumbs. Bolton's thin smile lingered. We stand united, aye, yet ravens fly swifter than armies. You risk civil war for one lad's parentage. Lady Mormont's chair scraped as she rose. Winter brings war of another sort. Her voice cut like axe through pine. Wildlings push at the wall. Others stir beyond. A dragon's son may be worth 10 southern kings if he can lead men when true night falls. A murmur rippled. Jon felt warmth flush his face. He raised a hand. I do not claim power over fire. I am flesh as any man, but I would stand where duty calls, on the wall, at Winterfell before the Iron Throne itself if justice demanded. Bolton inclined his head. Brave words, yet bravery feeds graveyards. Then let graves be fed by those who skulk behind half-truths. Robb said suddenly, rising beside Jon. His blue eyes flashed. I know this man. I bled beside him when wildling raiders struck the rills 2 summers gone. He will not break when wind howls. If war comes, I would rather him at my flank than any gilded prince from the south. Then, the hall murmured agreement louder now. Bolton folded his hands. Ned lifted a hand to still them. No war has come yet. We shall move with caution. Ravens will fly. not to King's Landing, but to trusted ears. The North stands first, the realm after. With those words, the assembly dissolved into knots. Lords conferring, cross-armed, knights whispering behind gloved palms. Harpers beginning soft chords to ease tension. Jon exhaled, muscles trembling from stillness. Ghost nosed his fingers. He moved among groups as supper dissolved into long winter evening. Lady Hornwood clasped his wrist in motherly greeting, murmuring that her late husband once boasted of Rhaegar's honor on the tourney field. Lord Karstark eyed him with dour skepticism but offered to test his sword arm come morn. Dragon's blood may demand dragon's steel. Jon accepted with a respectful incline. When at last his head spun with mead and conversation, he ducked onto a balcony overlooking the godswood. Snow drifted slow and steady, silent as prayer. Footsteps sounded, and Catelyn emerged, cloak drawn tight. She stepped to the rail without meeting his eyes. "I owed you more than cold glares, Jon." Her voice caught on his name. "I owe you still." He shook his head. "You owe me nothing. You gave me a home." "A home is more than walls," she said. "It is warmth by the hearth, a mother's hand to cool fevers. These I withheld." Her breath clouded. "Can you forgive a heart ignorant of truth?" He swallowed. "If hearts needed truth to love, none would love at all." He touched her sleeve. "I forgave you the day you scolded Arya for fighting, and then smiled when you thought no one watched." Catelyn's eyes shone. "You saw that? I saw you love her fiercely, even when you feared encouraging her wildness." He looked out across the still branches. "Love is wild too." She brushed a tear, then squeezed his hand, a gesture slight yet monumental. "Our family grows stranger this night, yet perhaps stronger." She smiled faintly. "And I find I would rather have dragons at my table than across the sea, plotting their return." They stood long in the hush until a raven's cry tore the night. Wing beats cut low over the battlements toward Maester Luwin's tower. Jon frowned. "I should see what message flies so late," he said. They descended. In the Maester's loft, Luwin untied a scrap from the raven's leg, eyes skimming swiftly. His brow furrowed. "From King's Landing," he whispered. Stamped with the hand's sigil. Jon's pulse kicked. "Lord Arryn." Luwin shook his head. "The seal is new. Lord Arryn died last month. The king named Sir Jaime Lannister to command the city watch, until a new hand is chosen." Then Ned, who had entered behind them, stiffened. Robert never wrote of Jon Arryn's illness. Luwin cleared his throat. The letter continues. Rumors reach court of surviving Dragonspawn. The king bids any man with knowledge present himself or be deemed traitor. Catelyn gasped. The spiders weave quicker than we thought. Jon felt the room spin. Someone saw the ravens? Or Bolton's fears took wing faster than his tongue? Ned scrubbed a hand over his beard. "Whomever the source, we cannot unring this bell. We must decide at dawn. Hide or stride forth." "Hide, eh?" Jon repeated, surprise edging his voice. "Hide in plain sight," Ned said slowly. "Or in exile, or behind the wall. Choices abound and none are good." He turned to Jon. "What says the blood of wolf and dragon?" Jon's hand settled on Ghost's head. Flame flickered in the dire wolf's pale eyes. "I will not slink like a shadow. I will ride south with you, father, Lord Stark, and look Robert in the eye. If he sees Rhaegar's face, let him also see Lyanna's." Catelyn touched Ned's arm. "Ride? And leave Winterfell unguarded?" "Dien?" Ned's gaze swept the tower windows. Snow fell heavier. "Winterfell stands sturdy. Robb can command in our stead. Bran may watch and learn. Sansa and Arya may travel with us. They are hostages to Robert's mercy otherwise." He took a breath. "The realm may rend itself, but I will not trust kingsmen to speak this tale." Luwin dipped quill to ink. "If you ride, letters must ride ahead. To River Run, to the Vale, to White Harbor. We gather allies before houses choose sides." Footsteps echoed. Robb burst into the loft, eyes alight. "Word has spread. Some say the king marches north already. Is it true?" "Ravens rumors," Ned replied. Yet we prepare as if true. Saddle horses for a fortnight ride. Rouse courtyard at first light. Robb nodded, jaw tight with excitement and fear. He clapped Jon's shoulder. South together, brother. Whatever storms brew, wolves hunt in packs. They dispersed into whirling duty. Grooms rustling in stables, scribes dashing sand across parchment, armory fires roaring to temper mail links. Jon found Arya in the yard, sparring shadows beneath moonlight. She grinned wild when he told her they would ride to King's Landing. It's south, I want to see. Crowded streets and water dancers. She twirled needle. Maybe find that my cowboy again. Prove I can still outrun him. Bran leaned from a window overhead, envy bright in his voice. Take me. I can ride before father now. Hodor hoists me like a sack of grain. We will bring you one day, Jon promised, though his heart ached at the uncertainty. Dawn arrived cloaked in slate. Breath plumed from horses. Iron rang as saddles were cinched. Ned Stark surveyed his retinue. 100 armored men-at-arms, Sir Roderick at their head. Catelyn and Sansa robed in travel furs. Arya astride a shaggy Giran. She was barely strong enough to bridle yet rode with fierce pride. Robb stayed behind to guard Winterfell. His embrace with Jon lingered. Keep his secret safe, Robb murmured. Dragons may breathe fire, but wolves hold ground. Jon smiled thin. I will howl loud enough that you hear. Ghost bounded beside his black courser as they thundered through Winterfell's gatehouse into snow-hushed world beyond. Behind, banners bearing gray direwolf and blank field whipped in wind. None yet dared sow dragon's three-headed sigil. Ahead, the King's Road stretched south, vanishing between ranks of sentinel pines laden white. Jon felt each hoofbeat hammer into his chest. Destiny's drum. 3 days, they rode under lowering skies. Flurries became steadier. Fires at roadside inns burned low as news spread of riders bearing Stark's livery. Peasants knelt, confused at talk of lost princes. On the fourth dawn, a courier galloped hard from the south with red wax sealed by royal crown. Ned read it beside a smoking dung fire while ravens cawed overhead. Robert Baratheon himself wrote, scrawl half-blurred by wine stains, that he hunted in the Kingswood, but would await Lord Stark at King's Landing to drink again of old friendship. No mention of Targaryen heirs. Yet a postscript in smaller script, likely the Queen's hand, demanded explanation for rumors of bastards bred in the north. Ned crushed the parchment, but did not burn it. That night they camped beneath ancient barrows where snowfall deadened sound. Jon lay wakeful, eyes on star-flecked gaps between boughs. Ghost padded circles, restless. Dreams returned. A sword of pale fire. Palm cut by dragon-shaped hilt. Blood scattering on snow that hissed and boiled. Voices, lianas, distant as bells across water, calling a name he did not yet dare claim. Jaehaerys, Jaehaerys. He jolted awake to Ghost's growl. Shapes moved beyond firelight. 5, 6, cloaked in mottled gray. Jon rose, hand on dagger, but Ned's voice cut the night. Who goes? One stepped forward. A black cloak rustled. A raven feather brooch glinted. Benjen Stark seeks his kin, came the answer. Uncle Benjen. Jon strode to embrace him, relief flushing cold from his veins. The first ranger's face was taut, eyes ringed in shadow. News reached the wall faster than even crows could carry, he murmured. Half my men whisper that Targaryens ride again under northern snows. I came to see truth. Ned welcomed his brother gravely. When the rangers had warmed by the fire, Benjen spoke of darker matters. Wildlings massing, whites sighted near Frostfangs, rangers missing. Winter's heart beats loud, he said. And now I learn the blood of dragons' lives. Some say Valyrian fire is needed when night walks. Now, Jon met his uncle's gaze. My fire is yet untested. Benjen gripped his shoulder. Flame knows its hour. He remained with them one night, only before spurring north again. Cloak billowing black beneath the moon. Jon watched until the dark swallowed him, aware that every path pulled tighter threads of fate. Wall, Throne, graves between. Days fled. Crossing the neck, they passed Moat Caelan's toppled towers, where moss curtained broken keeps, and bog water reflected clouds bruised purple. In the reed-choked mile that followed, Howland Reed emerged with flanked Crannog men, coracles gliding silent. He greeted Ned, not with words, but a clasp of forearms and tears unshed 15 years. When he beheld John, Reed knelt. "I swore to your mother," he said, voice rough as peat, "to guard you with silence until your name could stand in sunlit truth." John bent to raise him. "Then stand with me now, Lord of Grey Water." Reed pressed a glass candle into John's palm, light flickering inside, though no flame burned. "Dragon's glass is glass of dragon," he whispered. "Keep it as torch when dark closes." They parted with vows to rally marsh folk to Winterfell's call, should war break lungs of the realm. The Stark party pushed south, each league warmer yet weightier, as though secrets thickened the air. Catelyn rode often at Jon's side now, sharing memories of Lyanna she had learned only by torchlight reading of old letters Ned finally bestowed. They spoke of Harrenhal's tourney, of blue winter roses that smelled of frost and summer both, of songs slain by swords. One night near the Trident's northern ford they made camp beneath willows that wept into dark water. The current whispered tales of Rhaegar's fall, and Jon found himself drawn to the riverbank. Ghost followed like pale mist. Moonlight silvered the shallows, where once a crown of rubies scattered like bloodied tears. Jon knelt, cupped water that tasted faintly of iron. A breeze carried voices, grown men singing drunken ballads at the campfire. But in the rush of water he heard a lullaby he had never known. Lyanna's voice humming to soothe a babe named Aegon, named Jaehaerys, named Jon. He closed eyes, let memory not his own seep through bone. Footsteps crunched behind. Ned sat beside him, throwing a pebble into the flow. "Heavy river," he murmured. Jon stared at the dark run. "Do you hate him still?" Ned's sigh was wind lost among reeds. "Hate." He watched ripples fade. "I hated what war made of us. Rhaegar stole my sister from laughter. Yet now I know she went willing. Robert's thirst for vengeance burned good men and left scars across kingdoms." He looked to Jon. Rhaegar loved reading, music. He gave brand new swords to boys who bested him at practice, they said. If half the tales are true, he was dreamer and warrior both. "I can hate the choices, not the man entire." Jon dipped a hand in water. "Then I will not shame his memory, or yours." Ned clasped Jon's shoulder. "You will shape own memory, not theirs. South of here each man will choose whether to see the bastard or the prince. I see my son." They rose together and left the river to its secrets. Past the Trident, the land turned gentle, dotted with sheep pastures and orchards heavy even in early frost. King's Landing's distant glow painted clouds rust at dusk. Columns of gold-armored Lannister men began to dot the road, patrols answering rumors of rebellion. Jon kept his hood low, Ghost beside his stirrup drawing side eyes. They camped off the road, torches doused, speaking only in low tones muffled by blankets. On the eve of their arrival, Ned dispatched Sir Roderick and a dozen guards ahead to announce Winterfell's entrance at dawn. He bid Luwin prepare genealogies, ancient charters sealed with Targaryen sigils, anything to gird truth with ink. Jon slept little, dreams fracturing into images. Iron Throne's blades twisting, dragon wings unfolding, weirwood eyes bleeding red onto a snow-packed battlefield. Morning glared bright as a spear point. The city's gates stretched high, banners snapping, stag and lion entwined, Baratheon and Lannister bound by marriage and debt. Crowds clotted the road, craning to glimpse northern retinue. Criers called Ned Stark's name, cheering the Warden of the North, scattering hens and beggars alike. Yet whispers traveled beneath cheers. "The direwolf rides with a ghost," they said. "A dragon's bastard hides beneath his cloak." Inside the walls, heat pressed like a smith's forge. Smells of tallow, dung, roasted chestnuts tangled. Jon followed close behind Ned's column through muddy streets lined with onlookers. Some waved, some spat. When at last they reached the Red Keep's climb, gold cloaks formed a corridor. Sir Jaime Lannister awaited them near the gate. His polished scales shone like trapped sunlight. He smiled thinly at Ned, eyes flicking to John. "Winter travels swift," Jaime said, voice lazy yet honed. "His grace hunts, but her grace readied welcome. A feast awaits." Ned offered stiff courtesy. "Our thanks. We bear tidings urgent." Jaime's smile curved sly. "Some speak of urgent tidings born of dragons. Hope you have plenty of cold water for that fire." John felt ghost tense. He held the wolf back with a quiet touch, met the Kingslayer's green eyes with calm as glacial pools. Jaime's gaze lingered, curious, then slid away. Within the keep, attendants led them to furnished apartments overlooking the city. No sooner had packs dropped than a summons arrived. Queen Cersei requested Lord Stark and his son to attend her in the solar of the Maiden Vault. Catelyn's lips thinned. Ned squeezed her hand before departing with John. The Maiden Vault entrance was flanked by Lannister guards in gilded scale. Inside, hanging silks diffused afternoon sun into honeyed glow. Queen Cersei stood at a painted window, hair bright as spilled wine across green velvet. Beside her sat small Prince Tommen petting a black kitten, and Princess Myrcella arranging ribbons. Cersei turned, smile razor thin. "Lord Stark, how swift you ride when whispers tickle ears. And this must be the son whose name courts half the realm." "Nanny," John bowed. "Your Grace." Her emerald eyes raked him. "Such manners. Bastards these days come polished." Ned bristled. "He is no bastard, Your Grace. He is Jon, son of Lyanna Stark and Prince Rhaegar." Cersei's laugh rang brittle. "Forgive me if I lack tears of joy. Does Robert know you bring dragons north of the neck?" "He will." Ned's voice held ice. "I came that he hear truth from my lips, not courtiers. We ask only audience." "Do you know?" Cersei stepped close to Jon, studying his features. The dark curls, gray eyes, solemn mouth. A flicker of something? Apprehension? Sorrow? Crossed her face before mask returned. "I once saw Rhaegar at Harrenhal. He sang, and all women swooned. You have his eyes perhaps, but not his harp." She glanced at Ned. "Robert will rage. He rages always, but take care he rages at you, not at the boy. A king's wrath seldom stops with truth." Jon met her gaze steady. "I do not fear wrath. I fear lies." Cersei's lips quirked. "Brave words. Don't let them be last." "Then Tommen." She dismissed them to prepare for feast. As they left, Tommen waved shyly. Jon bowed and the prince giggled. Ned squeezed his shoulder. Seeds sprout in unlikely soil. Hour of the feast arrived. Great hall of Maegor's holdfast glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. Tables groaning under lemon cakes. Spiced boar-honeyed locusts. Lords and ladies thrummed. Robert Baratheon lumbered in last. A bear in ermine, cheeks ruddy, belly straining golden doublet. His roar of greeting to Ned shook banners overhead. Yet when his bleary eyes found Jon, confusion creased his brow. "Who's this?" the king asked, wiping ale from beard. Ned bowed. "My sister's son, Your Grace. Jon of houses Stark and Targaryen." Silence drew taut as drawn bow. Robert's chest heaved, color drained, leaving blotchy red. His hand drifted toward the warhammer at his side, before stiffening. Jaime Lannister stepped forward, but Cersei's small shake of head froze him. Robert's voice cracked. "Targaryen." "Yes, Your Grace," Jon answered. "I stand before you unarmed, shielded only by honesty. I seek no claim." He swallowed. "Yet I carry blood of Stark you loved, Lyanna. Do not kill her again tonight." "Banner." Robert staggered, as if struck. For long heartbeats the hall awaited thunder, blades half drawn. Then the king laughed. A raw, grief-ripped bellow that rattled tankards. "7 hells." He slumped to his seat. "Pour me drink enough to drown dragons thrice over." He pointed at Jon. "Sit. Eat. We'll see if dragon bastards drink like Starks." Tension eased, though not broken. Throughout supper, Robert's gaze flicked to Jon with a hurt that beer could not drown. Cersei watched both, eyes calculating yields of storm. lords muttered, whispers seeded. Yet John held his seat between Ned and Howland Reed, who had arrived under cloak to witness. He tasted each dish, sipped Dornish red, though his throat felt lined with snow. Words swirled, but he spoke little. When feast ended, Robert called Ned to his chambers. John followed at Ned's insistence, ghost trailing silent. Inside the king's solar, candles sputtered. Robert dismissed guards, poured wine, drank deep. Ned, he muttered, pacing like caged boar. You deliver ghosts. I dream of Lyanna, and you give me her son by the man I slew. Ned met his fury with calm. You slew him believing he stole and ravished her. She loved him, wed him. The war did not change that truth. Robert hurled his goblet against the wall, wine spattered like blood. All these years, you let me wear my hate like armor, and never said. He rounded on John. And you? How am I to see you? A boy who shares her face, his blood. Should I kill you to keep oaths to dead men, or bend knee to dragons again? John held his gaze. Kill me and Lyanna's grave grows emptier, Robert. Spare me and her son lives to serve Realm. Robert's expression crumpled. He sank to a chair, head in hands. Realm. Realm cheated me thrice. I won a rebellion for a crown that fits like iron crown of Sithorios. He looked up, eyes wet. What do you want, boy? Truth heard. Nothing more. Robert barked a mirthless laugh. Truth? Truth is sword with no hilt. He wiped his face and turned to Ned. What now? Ned spoke softly. Name him what he is. Blood of two great houses. Give him place, not throne. Let Realm see dragon and wolf in peace. Robert leaned back, staring at ceiling beams blackened by past fires. Heir? No. I have sons. But prince? Gods be damned. He sighed. John, will you swear fealty to the crown that slew your sire? John stepped forward. If crown guards realm, not pride, I swear. Robert managed a weary grin. A Stark's bluntness, very well. Tomorrow I will issue decree, John. What? Snow no longer. Targaryen, not yet. Let maesters squabble. He rubbed temples. Go. Leave me to drink myself blind. Outside, Ned exhaled. Step 1. John nodded, though knees trembled. Ghost licked his hand. The sun had not yet risen on the morrow, but ravens burst from the rookery bearing news. North and South now shared a secret half-reveal. In alleys of King's Landing, beggars whispered of a dragon prince walking the keep. In Old Town, archmaesters dusted parchments of annulled vows. In Bravos, agents of Illyrio Mopatis weighed letters with new import. Across the narrow sea, Daenerys Targaryen, widow of a Khal, woke from copper smoke dream of a wolf with dragon eyes calling her home. And in the far, far north, atop the wall, a ragged horn blast sounded through frozen dawn. 3 blows. White shadows moved beneath the trees. Jon Snow, Jon Stark, Jon Targaryen, found sleep only at dawn. Dreams lit by twin flames, one burning red upon a wall of ice, the other gold upon blades of an iron throne. Choices awaited like open doors, and winter's wind howled through them all. Aeonian, Ebd, PGSQL. Dawn seeped through the high latticed windows of the Tower of the Hand, casting dusty shafts across a chamber littered with crumpled drafts of royal decrees. Quills lay broken, where Ned Stark's temper had outpaced patience in the long night's labor. The final version sat upon the desk now, pinned beneath a dragonbone paperweight. Jon's true heritage rendered in Luwin's precise script, countersigned by King Robert's drunken scrawl and Ned's steadier hand. The ink was scarcely dry, yet its power already hummed through the stone walls like distant thunder. Jon stood at the casement, Ghost's muzzle pressed against his hip. The city below was just waking, gulls circling the Red Keep's battlements, street peddlers clattering shutters open, the fishmonger's square erupting in the guttural cries of dockhands unloading barrels of river-silvered trout. None of them yet knew that a new name would ripple through every alley by nightfall. Ned emerged from the council stair, beard newly trimmed, doublet stiff with northern wool despite the warm airs of the capital. He paused beside John. We read it to the small council within the hour. Robert means to unveil the decree at day's end, before 100 witnesses in the throne room. He insists on ceremony. Banners, trumpets, the lot. Joan's mouth felt dry. Ceremony gives gossip wings, father. Every courtier will claim he knew it all along. Let them. Ned placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Better they swat at rumors than hatch their own. Besides, Cersei has had all night to sharpen her claws. I would rather meet them in open daylight. Nee. Ghost growled low, sensing tension that neither man voiced aloud. Queen or not, Cersei Lannister would not surrender power without drawing blood. The hand in his son descended. Gold cloaks posted at the base of the tower saluted, eyes darting to Ghost with wary respect. The great corridor toward the small council chamber smelled of wax and old cedar polish. Veins of early sunlight crossed floors of mottled red marble. Ahead, a pair of doors carved with the sigils of the Seven swung inward. Inside waited Renly Baratheon, cheeks still flushed from that morning's hunt, chestnut hair neatly combed. Grand Maester Pycelle, bent nearly double over his chain's weight. Lord Petyr Baelish, who lounged by the window flicking invisible dust from an emerald cloak pin, and Lord Varys, arrayed in lilac silk, hands folded upon his belly as though cradling secrets. Jaime Lannister, the knot of the council, stood by the fire, polishing a golden vambrace with a patch of lamb's wool. His posture suggested boredom. His cat-green eyes missed nothing. Ned greeted them with a curt nod. His Grace will join us shortly. Meanwhile, we address a matter of legitimacy. He laid the decree upon the table of weirwood and black oak. Chairs scraped. Renly leaned forward, grin fading as he scanned the text. Pycelle adjusted pince-nez spectacles, muttering each word aloud. Littlefinger's brows rose. A mirthless whistle slipped his lips. Varys, however, merely blinked once, then gilded the silence with an airy sigh. So the dragon's egg hatches at last, Varys cooed. Astonishing how secrets ripen behind winter walls. Not secret to all, apparently, Ned said, eyes narrowing. Littlefinger tapped parchment with a ring-clad finger. Lyanna Stark wed to Rhaegar Targaryen, according to rites of the Seven, and sealed by Prince of Dorne as witness. Remarkable. One wonders why Prince Doran never let the tale slip. Renly snorted. Because Robert would have marched on Sunspear before breakfast. Sensible of them. Pycelle cleared his throat. A phlegmy rasp at eye. This revelation, my lords, will rend delicate threads holding realm together. The common folk recall only fire and blood where dragons trod. Ned folded arms. Common folk recall Robert's promises too. Justice, honor. We dishonor them keeping lies. Jaime slid forward from the hearth, golden armor flashing. Honor's a fine cloak, keeps you warm until a sword finds your belly. Tell me, Lord Stark, what stops Robert from remembering Rhaegar with his hammer, and forgetting the paperweight upon your desk? Robert remembers Lyanna first, Ned answered. Littlefinger raised palms in mock surrender. Charming sentiment. Yet perhaps we consider the Queen's memory. Her family's hold on the Iron Throne, which is to say, our comfort, rests on Robert's children. And here appears a boy with Targaryen claim. Half Stark besides, beloved of half the North. How might her Grace react? With grace we pray, Renly said, though the twinkle in his eyes suggested he cherished the coming drama. Varys inclined his bald head toward Jon. May one ask how the prince himself intends to wield this golden burden? Jon felt every gaze upon him. He straightened. I intend to wield no crown. My duty is to realm and family. If unity demands I remain lord of no lands, I shall. If it demands I ride against threats beyond the wall, I shall. Jaime smirked. You're either wise beyond your years, or hopelessly naive. Time will teach which. Doors banged wide. King Robert lumbered in, eyes bloodshot but clear of last night's haze. A fresh, scarlet tunic strained across his gut. The crown sat askew. Enough prattling. Has my council seen the bloody scroll? He seized it, scanned the signatures he barely recalled scribbling. So be it. At dusk it becomes law. Till then none breathe of it outside this room or I'll have heads. He tossed the decree back, glared at each counselor in turn. Jamie merely nodded. Pycelle bowed so low his beard brushed floor. Littlefinger adopted a mask of indifference. Varys smiled, palms outspread. Renly saluted with mock solemnity. Robert swung toward Jon. Boy, no gods, young man, come walk. Need clear air. He gripped Jon's sleeve and hauled him toward the terrace before any could object. Outside, the city sprawled like a patchwork cloak. Red tiles, gray slate, yellow thatch, and the Blackwater River gleaming pewter. Bells tolled in the Sept of Baelor. From Flea Bottom rose the aroma of lard-fried onions and something ranker. Robert inhaled. Hate this fucking city, he said. Chokes on lies. Yet today, I loose truth and pray it doesn't choke me first. He turned to Jon, eyes watery but keen. I see Rhaegar's high nose on your face. Damn him. But Lyanna's eyes soften it. He gripped the balustrade until knuckles whitened. I killed him thinking he stole her. Hurt her. And maybe he did steal, but not in the way I believed. Voice softened. Would she have chosen him over me? I'll never know. But she chose you with her dying breath, I am told. So I'll honor the woman I love. Jon swallowed, cheeks warming to the king's naked pain. She loved you too, your grace. My father, Eddard, said she spoke your name with sorrow, not scorn. Robert snorted. Sorrow, aye. Regret, maybe. He exhaled. Listen, the court's a nest of vipers. Cersei will not move openly yet. Tywin's too far at Casterly Rock. But she will test you. Smile, flatter, pry. The day she sees you as threat, she'll strike through softness nearest you. Keep the she-wolf girls close. Keep that white wolf closer. He clapped Jon's shoulder, almost toppling him. Come. Let's find wine not yet corrupted by Lannister cellars. They parted before midday. Robert stomped off, muttering to Sir Barristan Selmy about Dornish Reds. Jon threaded corridors to find Arya and Sansa in the Maiden Vault garden. Arya was dueling imagined foes with a broomstick, while Sansa supervised two septa arranging garlands for evening court. Sun painted her auburn hair copper. Worry furrowed her brow until she saw Jon. Have you truly become a prince? She whispered, stepping close. Dispatch the prince, keep the brother, he answered. The rest is banners and ink. They shared a tentative smile. Arya interrupted by thrusting her broom between them, declaring herself Arya Whitetail the Bold. Jon parried with a laugh, engaging in mock swordplay until a sweating knight of the Kingsguard approached, aghast at sticks flailing near the princesses. Arya stuck her tongue before scampering off. Sansa sighed but smiled. Her noon waned, tension building like storm clouds. Courtiers decked themselves in finery, rumors whirling through halls sharper than perfumed daggers. Ned armed retinue in stark gray and mailed hauberks. Jon donned a doublet of dark charcoal trimmed only by a direwolf clasp. No dragon sigil displayed. Ghost at his heels, he joined the family procession toward the throne room. The hall beyond the Iron Gate was a furnace of torchlight and crowded nobles. Steel columns twisted like towers of bleached bone. The throne loomed upon its dais, blades catching gloom. Heralds blew silver trumpets. The crowd's murmur rose to a tide, then quieted as Robert appeared in gold and sable. Stag crown firmly centered. Cersei glided beside, gown of green silk shimmering. Her smile was a knife's thin promise. Ned led Jon forward. Every eye followed. When they mounted first stair of the dais, Robert raised his broad hands for silence. Good lords and ladies, began the king, voice booming over braziers. We gather for truth. He recited the decree. Slowly, syllables slurred only on the hardest Valyrian names. The crowd gasped when he named Lyanna Stark and Prince Rhaegar, gasped louder when he called Jon their son, and gasped loudest when Robert proclaimed him henceforth Jon of House Targaryen Stark. Though no such house yet existed, entitled to style of prince, subject to no claim of the Iron Throne so long as Robert and his issue lived, granted lordship of Dragonstone, in recognition of blood. Cersei's lips pinched white. Behind her, the hound's face twitched at mention of Dragonstone. Varys fluttered a fan, eyes narrowed. Littlefinger's smile never reached his eyes. Robert finished. "Kneel, boy." Jon knelt. Robert drew a broad court sword, heavy, though nothing like his hammer. He touched Jon's shoulders. "Rise, Jon Targaryen Stark, Prince of Dragonstone, son of my truest friend and woman of winter roses." He sheathed, leaned close. "Now the dance begins." As Jon straightened, a murmur burst into full roar. Some cheered, many did not. The Queen dipped a stiff nod. Jaime Lannister grazed the pommel of his sword as if considering odds. Yet Arya's whoop careened across the hall before Catelyn hushed her. Sansa blushed rose-petal red, though pride flickered in her eyes. Ceremony ceded to chaos as courtiers pressed forward. Jon endured a gauntlet of bows and curtsies, sharpened compliments, and veiled barbs. Lord Giles wheezed that Prince Jon must sample his vintage from the arbor. House Redwine's twin sons offered token oaths of friendship. The High Septon, sweating beneath crystal crown, blessed Jon's name though forgetting half the seven. Grand Maester Pycelle pressed a vial of myrrh-scented oil for sleeping nerves, and Renly quipped that nerves were the realm's new currency, worth more than stags. Throughout, Cersei watched, a golden predator perched above shifting grass. Night fell deep when counselors withdrew to dine in smaller company. Ned ushered Jon, Catelyn, Arya, Sansa, and their household to the Tower of the Hand's private hall. Guards sealed doors. Fires crackled. But peace unraveled as Maester Luwin burst in clutching a parchment, bearing Tywin Lannister's golden lion. Ned slit the seal. Silence stretched as he read. Catelyn's fingernails dug into her palm. Jon's heart thudded. Finally, Ned exhaled. "Lord Tywin offers congratulations, dripping poison," he said. "He invites the new prince to Casterly Rock for instruction in matters of state, should the north prove too chill." Catelyn snorted. "A lion's den for the lamb." "Or a jail behind velvet curtains," Ned agreed. "Tywin moves to gauge threat before Cersei's wiles fail." Jon folded arms. "I will not crawl into his gilded maw." "No," Ned said. "Tomorrow we ride to Dragonstone. Best anchor claim fast before storms gather." "Dragonstone?" Sansa's eyes widened. "But the castle is said to brim with smoke and ghosts." Arya grinned wickedly. "Perfect for a Stark-born dragon." Plans took shape. A swift voyage down Blackwater, garrison begun, repairs launched. Sir Davos Seaworth, smuggler turned knight, had anchored at King's Landing with cargo of Lysine olives. Ned arranged meeting at dawn to hire his trusty black-sailed Mariah for crossing to Dragonstone. Catelyn would remain in the city with Sansa as unofficial envoy, while Arya traveled with Jon. Ned, Brienne of Tarth, newly arrived in Renly's retinue and sworn to escort, and a detachment of northern spears, plus Barristan Selmy at Robert's insistence. Yet destiny seldom heeds timetables. Sometime past midnight, bells clanged from the city's western quarter. At first Jon thought them drunken revels. Then horns joined. Shrill panicked. A servant burst in. "Fire, my lords! Flea bottom ablaze!" Flames rose beyond the rooftops in spires of orange, crimson, violet, colored not solely by wood. Alchemist's wildfire. Ned's jaw clenched. Someone strikes now, while court reels. Jon buckled sword belt. Ghost snarled, eager. Arya darted up from bedclothes, needle already in hand. Catelyn barred her way. "Stay within these walls." Arya protested but obeyed, albeit with mutinous glare. Jon raced down steps 2 at a time. Courtyard erupted in shouts. Gold cloaks poured from barracks, buckets and chains. Small folk stumbled up the street of flour, faces coated ash. He found the king in small clothes at tower base, roaring commands, belly jiggling. "Lancel," Robert bellowed, cuffing his squire. "Fetch my hammer." Jaime Lannister appeared clad only in mail shirt and boots. "Your grace," Better direct men from safety. I'll see streets cleared. Safety be damned, Robert huffed. But Ned seized command with calm. Stark men and city guards would flank. Douse with river pumped through lines of leather-hosed Davos. Delivered months prior. John followed Ned through smoke-wreathed streets. Sparking embers drifted like demon fireflies. Screams threaded alleys. Pigs squealed as stalls collapsed. They reached the main blaze, a ring of conflagration devouring shacks around the hook. Flames danced green at centers. Wildfire indeed. John's skin prickled. Who would risk wildfire inside walls? Ned cinched a scarf over his mouth. Someone who wants blame on you. Targaryen fire killing commoners. Lannisters can claim vengeance. They fought flames with river water steam hissing on contact. John and Ghost dragged a coughing girl from a collapsing cart. Her mother wept thanks. As dawn bled gray, the fire was contained, but 50 hovels lay cinder, dozens dead or burned. Rumors sprouted like mushrooms in the soot. Dragonspawn torching the city, witchfire from beyond the wall, Stannis' vengeance for losing Dragonstone to a boy. Robert surveyed ruin at sunrise, eyes rimmed red anew. 7 hells. Capital bleeding before my gaze. He turned on Cersei, who had arrived with hair uncoiffed. Your pyromancers store wildfire. Someone raided your vaults. Cersei's look of shock seemed genuine. Impossible. Guild claims none missing. They lie, Renly retorted, fingering burned cloak edge. Varys glided near. Some whisper a shipment seized at night. The locks on Guildhall, untouched yet barrels gone on wagons cloaked as manure carts. Littlefinger clicked tongue. Who commands manure of late? Why, the master of coin myself. Yet I signed no vouchers for such. Jaime studied footprints in ash. These wheels bear rose carvings. That's reach work. Tyrells? Renly laughed sharp. My flowers burn low before harming children. He pointed at a drag print. See how it veers toward the Lion Gate. Smells of my brother by-law. Cersei bristled, but Robert waved all silent. Find truth later. For now rebuild. And the boy sails today, if not sooner, my word stands. Within the hour, Davos Seaworth's black galley lay ready. Jon, Ned, Arya, Barristan, Brienne, and 20 men boarded, amidst swirl of gulls. Ghost bounded aboard, tail high. Sails unfurled, catching brisk morning wind. The galley slipped past city walls, leaving smoke-stained skyline behind. On deck, Barristan spoke gravely. Dragonstone once served cradle of conquest. Mind its ghosts. I mind living enemies more, Jon replied. Davos' hand sure on tiller grinned. Hold steady and the sea will serve you better than kings. Winds fair, by dusk we round Massey's hook. Waves slapped hull. Arya perched near prow, hair whipping. She held needle loosely, but scanned horizon like a hawk. Brienne strode the deck, tall and silent, testing sword balance with each step. Ned leaned at rail beside Jon. Sleep shadows darkened his eyes. We thought the fire a prelude, Ned said quietly. But to what? If Cersei plotted, it failed. If Tywin orchestrated, he misjudged Robert's anger. Someone else weaves net. Jon followed a gull diving for fish. Varys, he guessed. Varys sows suspicion, harvests secrets. Wildfire sows chaos. He thrives in both. A cry rang from Crow's Nest. Sail on horizon. 3 masts. Crimson pennant, flickering. Brienne squinted. Lannister galley. Fast. Ned cursed softly. How many? Another lookout shouted. 2nd sail, 3rd. Davos spat. 5 lions of Lannisport, war galleys armed with scorpions. Jon's stomach tightened. We can't outrun 5. No, Davos muttered, gripping tiller. But we can slip into Shipbreaker Bay's teeth. Few dare those rocks. He swung the Marya east. Wind howled through rigging. Lannister ships altered course, giving chase. The sea darkened beneath gathering clouds. Spray iced rails. Arya whooped as hull cut waves. Ned barked for men to brace. Ahead, storm broke. A quick summer squall, rare this late, churning water into whitecaps. Davos aimed for narrow strait between knife-point rocks. Galleys followed, slower to tack. Rain slashed. Thunder boomed. Ghost snarled at bursts of lightning. Marya skimmed through, hull scraping barnacled fangs. A Lannister galley tried the same, mast catching wind wrong. Boom snapped. Ship yawed broadside into rock. A chorus of splintered oak and men's screams rose. Davos grinned grimly. One less. Another lion ship broke oarbanks trying to pivot. Currents rammed her onto reef, hull spouting green wildfire from ruptured barrels aboard. Flames hissed skyward even under rain. Marya cleared straight into calmer lee of Dragonstone's volcanic cliffs. The remaining galleys dared not follow. They circled outside reef like wolves at frozen river edge. Lightning framed them, golden sigils on crimson sails dripping rain. Davos dropped anchor in Blackwater Bay's narrower neck, beneath the dragon-shaped stronghold's basalt gargoyles. Smoking vents stained sky sulfur. Jon beheld the castle his ancestor Aegon raised, black walls fused by dragon flame. A thrill ran through him, ancestral memory or imagined echo. He glimpsed rookeries perched on talon-like spires, massive portcullis mouth agape, as if waiting centuries for his return. Ned rested hand on Jon's shoulder. Your hearth now, if hearths of stone and fire count. Boats were lowered. Brienne and spearmen rowed first to secure the quay. Barristan stood with hand on hilt, gaze scanning ramparts for ambush. Yet their only greeting was wind shrieking through gargoyle jaws and gulls squabbling over crabs. They ascended switchback stair carved in cliffs. Sulfur vents steamed. Jon tasted copper on wind. Memories not his own flooded. Tales of Aegon the Conqueror forging swords in dragonfire, of Rhaenyra brooding over painted table, of little Princess Shira weaving spells beneath full moons. The hallways inside smelled of dust and damp. Tapestries mildewed yet regal, woven with dragons rampant crimson on black. Davos found stores half-stocked, barrels of smoked eel, casks of sour ale, yet plenty of grain. The small garrison surrendered peacefully, confused by orders to hold for Stannis months prior, then ignored. They knelt before Jon, though few could pronounce Targaryen. Night cloaked the castle in mist. Ned convened council in the chamber of the painted table, a colossal wooden map of Westeros Aegon carved for invasion. Candles flickered across mountain ridges, rivers, and jagged coasts, miniature beneath them. Barristan traced finger along neck. Tonight, riders loyal to Tywin carry word of our escape. He will not let public defeat stand. He may persuade Robert that Stark plots war from this fortress. Ned shook his head. Robert believes what Ale tells him. Cersei will whisper you enchanted him to sign decree. Let them whisper, Jon said. We fortify, restore beacon of truth. And we warn the realm what stalks beyond the wall. He pointed to the north of the map. White shadows stirred. My uncle saw 3 blasts of horn. Barristan frowned. If the dead walk, even Tywin's gold swords break. Brienne leaned on greatsword. We can sail ravens south and north from here. Dragons flew from Dragonstone before. They can again, even if feathered. Ned smiled. Aye. We send messages. But more. The realm needs symbol. Dragonstone's old glass forge lies beneath. Scoria and obsidian melt still in its belly. Can we fashion spearheads? Nabian. Davos scratched beard. Smugglers know caves where black glass forms like tears. I can gather. Jon pictured armies with obsidian blades facing the long night. We light this forge again, he said softly, and we send to Eastwatch crates of dragon glass. Men of the watch will carve arrows, daggers, spear shafts. The painted table shimmered beneath candlelight. Shadows danced over Vale, Riverlands, the Reach. Jon saw war looming not just of men but of ice meeting fire. A wolf's howl far below carried over wind, ghost on high parapet announcing new dominion. They planned long into night. Ravens for Mance Raider proposing truce against common foe. Letters to Dorne revealing Lyanna's secret wedding witnessed by Sir Arthur Dayne's sister. Envoys to White Harbor ordering shipwrights to craft slim, fast galleys for northern coast patrols. Call to Iron Bank for loans underwritten by Dragonstone's garnet mines dormant since Mager's reign. As candles guttered, Ned clasped Joan's forearm. I dreamed once of rebuilding in peace. Perhaps that dream stands yet. If we survive Stormfront brewing. John met his gaze. Storms are what shape mountains. Dawn saw work commence. Smithies cleared, bellows tested, Brienne training spearmen in yard of cracked basalt. Barristan drilling young squires in proper salute to Prince. Arya, having stowed away in a wine barrel to join voyage, now scampering across ramparts, spotting imaginary dragons in morning mist. News traveled by seabird talon. Stannis Baratheon furious over loss of seat, denouncing Robert's decree in letters heavy with legal citations. Tyrell's watching, weighing. Greyjoy longships prowling coasts near Flint Cliffs, perhaps sensing northern distraction. In King's Landing, Cersei made her first move. A raven reached Dragonstone 7 days after landfall. Signature of Grand Maester Pycelle, sealed unnoticed by Queen's perfume. It warned Ned that Robert lay abed, deathly ill from sudden fever. While Lannister guards barred healers save those loyal. The hand was confined to Tower on suspicion of treason. Littlefinger escaped custody, whereabouts unknown. Varys kept to shadows. Jon paced the forge's antechamber while sparks flew from newly lit furnaces. Heat reddened his cheeks, dried throat. "We sail tonight," he declared. Ned agreed without argument. Dragonstone stands with Davos in charge. Barristan and Brienne sail with us. Take ghost cream, forged dragon glass to the king's bedside if need be. His eyes hardened. If Lannister treachery stripped Robert's health, we will restore justice with steel. Arya insisted on joining. Ned resisted before relenting. Her snow-swift feet might prove useful inside city walls. Ghost would accompany Jon despite protests from Davos that direwolves spooked sailors. They departed at dusk aboard a sleek sloop, Blackwing, forged for smuggling but rigged for speed. Sea mists parted under gibbous moon. Night air smelled of salt and smoke from forge fires. Jon stood at prow, feeling pull to both directions. North where icy dead roused, south where burning lies spread. Near midnight, the sea stilled. Stars glittered hard. Brienne pointed, shape on waterline, another ship. Sails black, no banner. It drifted silent until lantern flickered, revealing hull scarred by arrows. Blackwing drew alongside. A rope ladder dangled. Barristan dissuaded but Jon climbed, Ghost following by uncanny leap. Deck lay strewn with corpses, men in black cloaks of the Night's Watch. Some looked newly dead, throats slashed. Others bore wounds half-healed. At mast foot, Benjen Stark lay breathing shallow, frost-rhyming beard, though sea air was mild. Jon knelt. "Uncle." Benjen's eyes fluttered. Wall opened. Shadows south. Can't outrun. He thrust bundle into Jon's hands. A dragonglass dagger crusted in ice, runes faintly glowing pale blue. Found. At fist. Walker struck. This blade sang. His hand fell limp. Barristan climbed aboard, face grim. "We take him below." Back on Blackwing, Benjen's fevered ramblings filled officer's cabin. 3 blasts. Fist lost. Horn of Joramun in Dead's hand. Jon scarcely slept, gripping dagger that hummed against flesh like living coal of winter. At dawn, Blackwing approached Blackwater's mouth, only to find chain boom raised across river. Ziga towers stood beyond, crowned with Lannister crimson and golden lions roaring defiance. King's Landing under blockade by its own queen. Davos cursed. "If chain remains, we row up river's side channel. Mudflats at low tide permit sneak." They executed plan at dusk. Rowboats skimmed shallows. Sailors heaved oars while Ghost paddled alongside like white shark. They reached storm drain beneath city walls, barely known to smugglers. Davos guided them through pitch-dark tunnel, knee-deep in sludge. Rats fled their torches. Emerging inside stained brick cistern, they climbed to cellar of a forgotten wine merchant's guild hall. Jon listened. Distant clang of bells, shouts of riot echoing. Barristan scouted, returned grim. "Gold cloaks patrol for Stark traders." Queen accuses Lord Stark of plotting to seat Dragon Boy on throne. Robert lies unconscious. Ned's face hardened like ice. We split. I seek Varys for passage to King's Chamber. Jon, you and Arya find Littlefinger. He may hold keys to city's shadow doors. Brienne objected to any split, but Ned insisted. Ghost slipped with Jon and Arya through alleys of dark-faced shuttered houses. Fires burned in distant squares. Smell of charred pork and tallow hung thick. Wheat prices soared. Mobs looted granaries near Dragon Gate. Amid chaos, Catspaws could strike unseen. They located Littlefinger at brothel disguised as Potter's Guild, reclining while scribes tallied coin. He welcomed them with mock warmth. The Dragon Prince in my den, how the world turns. Jon leveled blade. You helped Queen ensnare my father. Littlefinger laughed. I help only chaos. But tonight, chaos licks Cersei's boots. She means to crown Joffrey by dawn should Robert die. He twirled lock of beard. Perhaps we steal a king instead. How? Arya demanded, needle tip pricking his sleeve. Lannisters guard Red Keep gates, but smugglers' tunnels still breathe. I can open Salaport beneath Maegor's holdfast, but we need distraction. He eyed Jon. Prince parading before Sept. Too obvious. Jon sheathed sword. I'll surrender to Queen's men. Public arrest outside holdfast will draw them. Arya hissed protest. Littlefinger's grin widened. Risky, but poetic. Plan set. Jon walked midday streets in plain sight. Ghost at heel. Gold Cloak spotted him near Street of Silk. Horns blaring. Crowds surged, hurling rotten fruit, but also cheers. Cloak seized Jon, binding wrists with hemp. Ghost snarled, but Jon ordered stay. They dragged him through Mudgate to Red Keep courtyard, where Cersei awaited upon balcony, flanked by Tyrion, recently returned from Eyrie and now hostage to sister's will. So the dragon flies to net. Cersei purred. Bring him to dungeons. As guards pushed Jon toward Stone Stair, explosions shook South Tower. Smoke billowed where stable roofs burst, horses screaming. Barristan's men had ignited hay soaked in lamp oil. Gold cloaks scattered. Littlefinger's riot bribed cutthroats to storm grain stores, while Brienne and Northern Spears breached Salaport, seizing guardrooms inside Holdfast's belly. Amid confusion, Ned and Varys slipped into King's apartments. Pycelle cowered in corner while Maester from Citadel attempted leeching Robert's bloated arm. Ned found Queen's tonic bottles, purple residue smelling of nightshade. He pressed blade to Pycelle's throat until the Grand Maester croaked confession. Queen's order, slow poison. In courtyard, Jon tore free of distracted guards. Ghost ripped rope restraints. Jaime Lannister vaulted from barracks in full plate, sword blazing. He intercepted Jon beside dry fountain. Back to chains, princeling, Jaime said. Jon drew Longclaw. Steel rang. Sparks flew as blades clashed. Jaime's skill outmatched Jon's training, yet Jon fought with fury, dragonglass dagger tucked hidden at belt. Ghost lunged. Jaime kicked, but the direwolf dodged, snapping at shield rim. Jaime feinted high, sliced Jon's forearm. Blood spattered marble. Jon pivoted, parried, slipped, retrieved wits. Crowd backed, giving duel space. Arya scrambled across balustrade toward towers. Above, bells tolled. Robert's death knell. No. Arya burst from tower window onto roof, waving banner of direwolf and stag stitched crudely together, screaming, "Treason of Queen!" Children in crowd took up cry, momentum tipping. Jaime pressed advantage, slashing. Jon retreated to Fountain's Edge. He feigned stumble. Jaime advanced, cocky smile. In that heartbeat, Jon drew dragonglass dagger, parried left, and slashed right across Jaime's vambrace. Glass bit through laminate steel as if butter, slicing flesh. Jaime recoiled, stunned. Jon's next cut hamstrung Kingslayer's knee. Jaime collapsed, gripping leg, gold hair matted with sweat. Gold cloaks hesitated, unsure. In Tower Arch, Ned appeared with Robert staggering on his arm, King pale but conscious. Varys and Barristan flanked. Robert lifted voice ragged yet strong. "Stand down," Queen lied. "Poison me. Jaime, call off your dogs?" Confusion rippled. Cersei's face blanched. She retreated. Tyrion watched wide-eyed. Jon lowered sword. Blood dripped from gash on arm, but triumph hammered heart. Jaime glared, grudging respect. Robert collapsed. Maesters rushed. Ned barked orders. Arrest Pycelle for regicide. Confine Queen to chambers. Ser Barristan secure gates. Lord Baelish seal city treasuries. Jon knelt by King, offered water. Robert gripped his wrist. Good lad. Good prince. Eyes fluttered. Hours lunged past. Healers purged Queen's toxins. Robert survived, weakened yet resolute. With sun's rise he summoned small council, now minus Pycelle. Cersei, guarded, sat silent. Robert addressed them hoarsely. "Since dragons and lions near destroyed me in one night, I name new hand to steer realm. Jon Targaryen Stark. Blood of both houses, none dare call him partial." Gasps Daesh. Jon stiffened. "Your Grace, I am no statesman." Robert ignored protest. "Ned retreats north to gather against walkers your uncle bleeds to stop. You stay, mend court." He coughed. "If Queen objects, she can share Pycelle's cell." Cersei's green eyes burned, but she bowed. Lips bitter. Ned squeezed Jon's shoulder. "Winterfell endures because we adapt. So will you." Days later, Ravenstorm, formerly Lannister galley repainted direwolf and dragon, sailed north carrying Ned Benjen. Recovered enough to journey, and dragonglass arsenal for the wall. Jon watched from parapet. Arya stuck out tongue at formality. Sansa wept softly, hugging their father before departure. Catelyn, released, joined voyage to safeguard Bran and Robb. Jon remained in King's Landing, hands chained heavy across shoulders. Ghost-paced council chamber, sniffing bouquets of scented herbs, Varys placed to mask hound's musk. Littlefinger bowed with exaggerated flourish. Tyrion Lannister, freed in exchange for Jaime's care, smirked yet offered treasury counsel. Renly proposed tourney to celebrate new hand. Jon declined, funds needed for wall garrisons. Davos arrived with shiploads of obsidian for blacksmiths. Letters poured. Stannis demanded Dragonstone. Jon offered him Storm's End instead, citing Robert's neglect. Stannis growled, but accepted pending counsel. Winter's first gale swept south earlier than memory. Snowflakes drifted across Red Keep ramparts. For first time in living recall, Jon stood at Maidenvault balcony, ghost beside. Beneath, city huddled under frost. He thought of wall, of fist, of horn blasts. He raised dragonglass dagger to pale sky. Sunlight refracted off onyx blade, shimmering blue. A vow formed in breath that clouded like smoke. Not to throne nor banners, but to life's fragile spark against creeping dark. Far in the shadow of the frost fangs, a blue-eyed rider on dead horse sensed that vow and turned south. The endless night, following in silent patient stride.